Hello and welcome. I'm Jenny Hall. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you're ready to create something a little special and stepped up. Today we're going to be creating a double Z-fold shaker card. Isn't that exciting? I'll give you a close-up look here. It's so much more easy than it could appear to be. On my blog at jennyhalldesign.com, there is a free PDF that is ready for you to download and print out in order to make this project. Really easy to follow along and craft and see exactly how to create it as you're reading how to create it as well. This idea was born from creating a card with just a little bit more. I'm featuring this card in the blog hop today for the Be Inspired design team, where we are doing projects based on friendship. And I really like the sentiments in the stamp set. The stamp set we're going to feature today is Climbing Roses, along with the Rose Trellis Thinlits dies. They are in the Occasions catalog and they will be available through the end of May. We will also be working in a few Celebration products, and the Celebration products are only available through the end of March. To create this project, you will need to have something from the Occasions catalog and from the Celebration. But the great thing about Celebration items is that you earn them for free whenever you purchase from either the Occasions catalog or an out of publication type of product, plus the annual catalog. So any product purchases that you make with Stampin' Up, that Stampin' Up makes it very easy for you to be able to earn those free Celebration items. The two items that we're going to use today are going to be something that's currently in stock as far as I know. Last I checked, it was all in stock. Now that's going to be this lovely lipstick and Grapefruit Grove foil paper. And you can see how shiny and holographic it is. It's really, really fun to craft with. In fact, I'll show you just how shiny it is. It's amazingly shiny and it's very sturdy. In fact, when creating this project, I almost used this as my card base. In fact, I cut a card base, but it wasn't working out, so I changed my color scheme. So you can see how easy this works as a card base. Really great stuff. This is a level 1 Celebration item. It's called Grapefruit Grove and Lovely Lipstick Foil Sheets. And they are free with a $50 purchase. Also free with a $50 purchase is another paper that we're using today, and this is called Botanical Butterfly Designer Series paper. One side of this beautiful butterfly paper is lots of color, but the other side is black and white. So the colors really shine and really pop off of the black and white background. So I chose for this one the black and white check design. And that is also a level 1 Celebration redemption item. If you want to find out what more items are that you can choose for free with your purchase in the Stampin' Up! Celebration brochure, if you do not already have a catalog and a brochure, just let me know and I'll get one over to you. Or you can go to stampinup.com and you can click on the appropriate places on their website to see what the free Celebration offerings are. really easy to be able to redeem these items with your purchase. So I'm checking in over here, and we have lots and lots of people that are joining in. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy that you've taken the time to stop and craft today. What I have done differently today on Facebook is that I have uploaded a copy of the tutorial for this card. It's a 6-page tutorial, and it's 6 pages because it has links for all of the products that you can purchase, or you can use them as reference to know exactly what goes into this card. Good morning, Marcy. I'm happy to see you. Every project that I create nowadays has got a free PDF tutorial. Not every project has a video tutorial, but every one of them has a PDF tutorial. It's free. It's one way that I can share with you, and it's a teachable tool. I ask that if you use my tutorials, and there are lots and lots of them, that you just please give credit to jennyhalldesign.com as the designer of the project. But yes, there's lots of ways that we can create with the tutorials. You can change the theme and the stamp set. Lots of ideas, wonderful ways to share. So I hope you all are going to enjoy creating this project, and we're going to get started now. If you have any questions along the way, then please type the word question in caps, just as we always do, so that I can see your question really quickly. Make sure you type question followed by what your question is. If you would like to get this card in the mail for free as a giveaway, then I need you to share the video. Make sure that you have liked my Facebook page and subscribed to my YouTube channel. And it's just that easy. Make sure you leave a comment to tell me that you have already shared it. And that way I'll know exactly who is to be entered into the giveaway. So that's one way that I can give something back to you guys. And you have indicated that you do really like the cards. And by the way, this card folds down flat to be mailed. I would give it another 1 or 2 stamps to make sure that it gets where it's going. But other than that, you can make this card too. So I'm checking in here. We've got lots of people in, and don't forget to share the video as we go along, or share it now and leave me a comment, and we're going to get started. So I'm going to turn the camera around now, and then we'll get started with our supplies. So this is in essence a double Z fold card, and it has a box area. This is what you would call the box area down here underneath. And what I've done different to this is that I've created it into a shaker card. And you can see all of the little bits and pieces of sequins that can move around. And a lot of them tend to stay in place whenever you shake it, or it's just lots and lots of wonderful happiness when it comes with a shaker card. It folds down flat and goes in a standard envelope. If you have already printed out the tutorial for this, you'll know what the measurements are, but we'll go over the measurements as we get to each thing that we're going to add to the project. But we're going to learn a few other techniques along the way. This little card is something special. I really like how it came out, and I really, really like the sentiments. Hi, Robin. Hello. Climbing Roses is the stamp set that I thought would work the best with this design because I really, really adore the fonts. So as you can see, I used 2 of them. I thought of you today and Sending Love. And these sentiments kind of have the same look about them, but by putting them on opposite colors, that would be black stamped on white versus white on black, then it brings a really different look. So it doesn't look as if something is being repeated. It looks as if, to me, that this is a companion but it's not competing with this sentiment here on the front. Oh, I'm glad you guys like that. And yes, we're going to make these flowers. We're going to do the whole card right here together. I must warn you that this video could be a little bit long, and that's because we're going to go through a lot of steps. But I want you to feel confident with being able to recreate this card, or be able to create it with whatever theme that you like. One question that I have had that I would like to demonstrate today is, how do I get the die cut negative pieces to stay in? And we're going to do that today as part of this project. Normally I would already do that ahead of time in order to save time in the video, but I feel there's enough questions about this process that it will really help and be able to give an understanding of how I keep these little bits and pieces intact. So essential to this project is the Rose Trellis Thinlits dies. This is the die that is used for the sentiment, and this is the die that is used for the roses. So as you can see, it's created to let all the other pieces fall away. But what we're going to do is we're going to work together on how we can keep them to stick together. Another really fun piece of this die set is this really large die, and I believe that's where they got the name of the set, Rose Trellis, because it does look like a trellis. And that's something you could integrate into another project. This is a fantastic bundle that is 10% off in my online Stampin' Up store. So if you are interested in this product, then please make sure you get it before the 10% discount expires at the end of May. So to start our project, I have a piece of watercolor paper. One thing to note about watercolor paper is that it has a rough side and a very smooth side. Typically when I'm going to stamp on watercolor paper, I will go on to the smooth side because I'll get a better connection with the stamp and the paper. Today I want to stick with the rough side of the paper. Now I have a scrap paper here. This is just something that came from one of the therapists for my kids. So I'm using this to try to demonstrate exactly how simple this technique is. What I'm going to start off with is adding some adhesive to the back of the watercolor paper. And this will be on the smooth side. So I'm going to add some lines that are maybe a ½ an inch apart. You can go a little closer together if you need to. There's no point in using all your snail adhesive on this if you don't have to. So I think it's kind of humorous. I'm just going to add more snail here because I want you to be able to see this whole thing is not, they're not up against each other. There's a little bit of space in between. I don't mind that there is paper written, or there's printing on this paper. It works out fine, not a problem. But what I touched it down to the paper a little too quickly. That's all right, we'll work with it. I'm just going to try to smooth it out, and then I'll make that connection between the paper and the adhesives. So now the two pieces of paper are one unit. When I make my die cut, it's going to keep all those little pieces together. If this does not appear very clear and you need me to clarify exactly how I'm putting this together, then please let me know in a comment. So you can see here that we now have this made into one piece of paper. I do this oftentimes with 2 pieces of regular Whisper White cardstock, and I also do it with watercolor paper with something on the back. Oftentimes, watercolor paper doesn't need this reinforcer, but sometimes it does. So this is a just in case to make sure all the pieces stay together. So now we're going to use this really pretty rose trellis thinlits die. And I'll show you step by step how to do the die cut. And I have my die cut machine here. This is the Big Shot. And I'm going to create 2 of these. I want to make one single pass with this die. I don't want to cut it twice, only once. And I'll make sure that I get it onto the paper here. It doesn't have to be lined up in a special spot. Oops, I'll turn this over. It's kind of curved a little bit. And I'm going to go through one time. Keep in mind that watercolor paper is more thick than standard cardstock. Now when we take this away, it should be one solid piece. If you can see here, it didn't completely go through that back piece, and that is perfect. I'm going to take the paper piercer, it looks like this, and I'm going to poke out not these pieces, these are the ones I want to keep intact. I'm going to poke to loosen this in the die piece areas that have the little circle. This is going to allow me to gently pull away the die cut and keep it as one unit. Once I have enough pieces loosened on the back, then I can start to pull it back very gently. Oh, I just didn't do gentle there. Being careful to not push it into the areas that have negative pieces, negative space, negative pieces. So as I go around, it's just loosening it up. And there you go. That's how I get these die cut pieces to stay intact. And what it also does is the areas that are not cut kind of have a little bit of lift to them so that there's a curved contour. So if you have any questions about this process, this is the perfect time to ask. I'm going to make another flower die cut. I'll go much faster with it this time around. One pass through the Big Shot. Sorry for the table rattling. I'm going to pull it away from the paper gently, and don't toss this out. This can be used as many times as you need a watercolor die cut. But we are done with the Big Shot. For now, we'll bring it back in a little bit. And I'm going to loosen up those pieces. So this is where you need to have a little bit of patience and try to keep this piece intact because it is so beautiful whenever it comes out whole. If one piece tends to come loose, just put it back in. And you can make sure that it's secured together whenever you secure this die cut down to the project. Oh, I'm sorry, Karen. There is definitely a benefit to getting the PDF from my blog and following along with the PDF if that's something that you can do to help you be able to visually see the instructions. And it's a free PDF. Usually I create the PDFs before I create the video. You know, I kind of do it together and release it at the same time. But today is different because I wanted to really go into detail about this project because it is a bit more involved. But there's an overwhelming request for a video for this because I did not put the video link whenever I posted for the blog hop. Instead, I knew we would create it today. So this is something that people really, really want a video tutorial for. So now we have our two very pretty roses, and you can see how nice they come out. I'm just really impressed with how nice this die set is with, it's called Rose Trellis Thinlits. So now we're going to add color. There's a reason why we are creating this before we're doing the rest of the card that is a little bit more involved, and that's because we need for this to dry. That's the thing to remember with watercolor, is we always need to leave time for it to dry, or else we're going to have to make it dry. So if you have a question, then please make sure that you type the word question in capitals so that I can see it. And I think there might be some questions so far, but it means that I'll have to stop teaching in order to answer them. So unless you type the word question, then I don't see it. I'm sorry if that sounds a little bit like a stickler, but it really helps me to be able to answer the questions quickly. I'm bringing up some of the stamp pad ink to the lid by pressing from the back of the stamp pad, and then it gives me a little ink here to work with. And I'm going to do this for both colors. We have Flirty Flamingo and Pear Pizzazz. When these colors are mixed together with black, they really, really just stand up and shout. So the first thing I'm going to do is add just a very, very light coating of water with my aqua painter, and this is filled with tap water, on the rose area, not on the leaves, just on the flower. Pick up some of this Flirty Flamingo and go into the center and really, really add some color. I want that color to sit down in the middle of the rose in particular. And then I can wipe my brush off a little bit and then bring a very lighter color out to the rest of the rose. And then I can always go in and add more intense color here. As I really want this rose to stand out. Okay, Jean Ann has a question. Would wide Post-it tape work instead of snail? It could work for you, Jean. It's a possibility, but what the problem is that it's not going to stick down permanently. It's not going to make it, this project is going to be mailed, and I'll show you what it looks like. So it's going to fold up and be a shaker card as well. So for this project in particular, I really need to have something hold these bits and pieces down together. There is always a chance that the watercolor paper will hold it on its own. If it's glued down directly to the card base, it has more opportunity to stay intact. However, this one, you can see that the little pieces already have wanted to start pulling away. It's not a bad thing. It's definitely a matter of preference. So I would suggest that maybe you take a scrap of watercolor paper and try it out. I have had really good success with the snail, and that's why I use it. So we're going to do the same thing to the second rose, add the color. And the one thing about doing die cuts in this way is you can see that the color just sinks down in those cut lines that are made by the die. It's really beautiful in person. And I will be sending this card to somebody. It'll be a giveaway, so if you are interested in receiving this card, whether you're watching on YouTube or you are watching on Facebook, be sure to share the video and then indicate that you have shared the video. And I'll add just a little bit more color here to this rose because I want it to be a little bit more intense. I could use an ink refill to drip down color into the stamp pad lid, or just continue to pick it up in this manner. It's your preference, whatever you like that works best for you. And I'm not squeezing the brush as I apply the color because I want it to stay concentrated. Now I'm going to do the same exact process with the leaves, and be sure that when you're working with an aqua painter that you clean it out by gently applying pressure to the barrel and then just kind of moving it back and forth on your paper towel. And the paper towels tend to be tend to be lint free, and so using a different type, if you have an old rag that you like to use with your painting, that would work out well. If you have say a facial tissue, I have been known to grab a facial tissue in the heat of the moment whenever I'm doing some coloring, but it does tend to bring and carry some lint with it, so that's something to keep in mind. These leaves have already been wet. So now I'm adding the color a bit more concentrated in the center, just like we did with the roses. And this kind of gives a little bit of a washed out look to where they're not one solid color. Just like in nature, the leaves would not be one solid color. And we're coloring these first so that we can have time to let them dry. The water is getting all the way down into all these little beautiful cracks. And that's a good thing. We want it to do this. So here is what one of the roses will look like. And this rose is going to go a little faster. So by putting these die cuts in, leaving them intact, then it allows the color to just go down in and create all these beautiful lines. And they're already wet, so what we're adding of color is going to be spread out by the water that's already carrying it. And we are working on 2 layers of paper. If you're just joining in, then you'll be able to see exactly how we did that in the replay. So we're going to set these aside and allow them to dry. I'm cleaning off my brush now. I always try to do that and never leave color on the brush. That's my goal, at least. I try to, but it doesn't mean I'm always successful. All right, so we're gonna let these beauties dry off to the side and start working on actually putting together the components of the double Z fold card. We're first gonna make it a double Z fold. Well, we're gonna work on 1 fold, and then we're going to create the shaker section here. And I have worked on making it as easy as possible, especially if you're new to making shaker cards. Yes, Karen, you're right. There is an endless possibility of dies that go along with this. Some of the pieces have already been, well, everything has already been cut, and some of the pieces have already been stamped in order to save just a little bit of time. But I will go over exactly what we're using. Our card base is 4 1/4 inches tall by 6 inches. We're going to work on some score marks for this, but we'll do that as we go. We have a Botanical Butterfly panel for each side, and this measures just slight of, I think it's 1/8 of an inch. It'll show you in the instructions, but it's 1/8 of an inch smaller than 3 by 4 1/4. So that when we fold, we will have two identical pieces. Now the thing to remember with this check pattern is that it's going to either line up or not line up. And I cut them from the same paper so that they would line up, but it looks like for whatever reason they're not lining up. So my advice is to just do the best you can. So these are just 1/8 of an inch smaller. So that would be 2 7/8 this way, and it would be 4 1/8 this way. All right. We have a piece of window sheet, and this is just plastic. You can hear. And this is cut to the same size as one of the sides is going to be 3 inches by 4 1/4 inches. You could easily translate this project into centimeters. Just round up or round down all of the measurements to however you can translate them into centimeters. And then we have for the back of our shaker, this is 3 inches by 4 1/4, and I've already embossed the sentiment to save a little bit of time. I have pre-die cut from the Rose Trellis Thinlits our sentiment holder. I've got a tiny little foil die cut. Isn't it cute? And the way that the light hits that Grapefruit Grove foil paper is just so pretty. It's like prisms. It's just amazing. And that's going to be the back Z. All of these pieces are going to form the back Z. On the front Z, which is going to be the second of the Z folds, we have a strip of the Grapefruit Grove foil that is 3/4 of an inch this way by 6 inches. So you can see that this is the same total width of our card base. And here is a black strip that is also 6 inches, but it's cut down to 1/2 inch. So we're going to adhere these pieces together. If you have a question, please be sure to ask along the way, and I'll do my best to catch and answer those questions. Here is what it looks like underneath. You can see how these two pieces fold together. There's a Z this way and a Z this way. And when they're put together in opposing Z's, then it forms the perfect ability to just lay down flat. Isn't that cool? So we're going to start doing some scoring, and this is where things tend to get just a little bit confusing for someone who has never created this card foil, the card fold. If you have a question, stop me and I'm happy to answer. I'm going to use my Stampin' Trimmer, and this is probably the part of the project that I had to learn and teach myself a couple of times when I first made this fold. And that's okay. It's one way that you learn is by trying, and if it doesn't fit the way you like it, try again and try again until you're comfortable with what you're doing. Now, if you have created this fold before, then maybe this will be something new with the shaker area. And it is very important that you follow along with what the dimensions and measurements are that are given, because that is how this, in a standard card, there's much more freedom, but in a fancy fold card, there is the necessity to keep things together, and it all works together. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to score it at 3 inches. Will be right in the center. Like this. And I don't have to burnish the fold yet. We're going to get there. But before I start putting all the folds together, because we have some designer series paper, we're going to adhere it. this is my method. And I know that there's lots of different ways to create fancy fold cards, but this is the method that I follow whenever I'm creating them, because I have found that if I do things in a certain order, then it prevents little trip-ups from happening later on down in the project. So I'm using snail adhesive, and I have these two panels adhered together. I want to get them as even as I possibly can, because I have a pattern here on the paper that I'm trying to follow. So if we were just making this a double Z fold card, then typically we would progress with doing all of the scoring and the folding. But because we're making this a shaker card, then this is the time when the paper is flat that I need to stop and create the shaker window. So I'm going to create the shaker area with a rectangle die, because that is probably one of the easiest ways to know that you're going to be able to get a nice easy cut. So I'm looking for my dies. Here they are. This is the one thing that I did not have out at a time. So the die that I'm going to use, as we follow along, you'll be able to see exactly which one. I'm going to use, let's see, if it's this one here. This would be number 4, down from the largest. That's going to be too big. So I want there to be more integrity to the card base. So I'm going to use number 5. So this is the 5th from the largest, or it's 1, 2, 3, 4th from the smallest here in the center. So you can know exactly which die it is that I'm using. I do too, Fran. I love these new dies. They are fantastic. So what we're doing now is, because this is a 2-part card, we're going to create the shaker area. This is not necessary for a double Z fold card. This is only because we're doing it as a shaker card. So I'm going to place this die as carefully as I can, because it does matter if I get it straight. So I'm going to place it here and carefully put down my top plate. And then as I put it through the Big Shot, and of course I did it crooked. Let's see. Let me straighten it up just a little bit. I'm going to go and make 2 passes. So here's the first pass. Sorry, it's so clunky and loud. Here we go again. And that should gotten through both layers of paper. I did 2 passes because we do have 2 layers of paper here. And it looks like it still didn't go through. So I'm going to turn it over. Now that the die is really stuck into the paper, it's not going to move on me. So I'm going to turn it upside down so that the rollers of the Big Shot are going to make a better connection with the die. And go through again. And that should have done the trick. So now it'll come easily away from the paper as this. See? There we have it. And you can save this for another project. Now we're done with the Big Shot. For real this time. So this little die really came in handy in order to get us a nice, straight, clean cut. These are available in the Occasions catalog as well. The Occasions catalog is filled with so much good stuff, isn't it? We're now going to make the shaker area of the card. So this is the basic instructions for making a shaker card. If you're new to shaker cards, this will be exactly what you need to know to create a shaker. First, you need to have an opening, and we have created our opening. Then we're going to turn this onto the back. And I have some foam strips from Stampin' Up. These are really good for giving just enough lift for all of the little shaker bits to run around. This is where you'll need a piece of window sheet acetate and then a piece to close up the back of the shaker. I can't use the same piece that I took away because then when I apply the foam tape, there will not be anywhere for it to adhere to. So that's why this piece needs to be larger than the window area. I hope that makes some sense. This is essential that it needs to be larger than the area, and you can see here that it is quite a bit larger. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a really good connection between the window sheet and my cardstock. There's a couple of different ways that this can be done. One way would be to do it with snail adhesive. Another way would be liquid glue. When I'm working with a shaker card, I try my very best to stay away from liquid glue. It can get a little messy, a little more messy than what I like. So this is tear and tape adhesive. This kind of adhesive, it's got many different names that it goes by. Some people have called it score tape, and some people call it Be Creative tape. But what it is a very, very sturdy, wonderfully sturdy adhesive. And this is going to keep my shaker area really secure. So once I have all the little bits down, I'm going to remove the backing. This part is essential for making a shaker card, Anne Marie. You said that you haven't made one before, so make sure you don't miss this step. All of these little pieces. So once we have our adhesive exposed, then we're going to take our piece of window sheet. Now Stampin' Up! Does sell window sheet acetate, and it's called window sheet. But you can use something that, for example, if you have bought a computer and it has like one of those little pieces that you have to peel down, then this is that type of thing. If you have a stamp set that is photopolymer and it has one of those sheets that they stick to, you could use that as well. You can use any kind of a scrap of clear, sturdy plastic. So I'm going to place this on top of the adhesive, like this. And then I'm going to press where the adhesive is in order to make a good connection between the plastic and the adhesive and the paper. Oh, I'm so glad that it's working out for you to understand, Anne Marie. Wonderful. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to build up a layer to keep the back part of the shaker card from touching the front part. Because if we put things here and don't give there enough space to be a lift, then the shaker pieces will have no area to move around. And that's where these foam adhesive strips will come in. When you buy it, it has 2 of these long pieces here, and it lasts me for quite a while. So I take one piece off, and I start where I'm going to have the foam be just on the inside of what the opening window is. And I'm going to extend past it, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. So I'm placing it just to where it's not going to show through the front of the opening. If you're not new to shaker cards and you've done this before, then this is just a standard way to create a shaker card. And this one will fit really nicely down here. So we have to also put something on the sides. And this is where we have to pay attention to make sure that we connect these two pieces together completely to where nothing is going to fall out of the shaker. Once you get used to making a shaker card in this way, it will become second nature to you. Just make sure that there's a good connection between all the corners. And using these foam strips really do help that out a lot. Just that simple. And then the little extra piece can go right back onto the sheet and be stored in the package. So there's nothing wasted. Hi, Brianna, thank you for sharing. So now we have some adhesive back pieces on this foam. We don't want to take them off until we've already gotten our shaker pieces inside what's going to be our shaker area. So I'm using the iridescent sequin assortment. These are available like in a very large quantity. Let's see if it tells me how many sequins are in here. It might be by weight instead of by number of pieces. But I just like to grab and drop them in like that. I don't want too many pieces or it's going to just be too much shaker. So 2 little pinches are just enough. And now we're able to take off this backing strip. And I'm trying to make sure I don't spill any sequins, which could be done easily. All right, so now that we know this is the right-hand side and this is the left-hand side because we're turned in reverse, then we'll make sure that we place this in the right way. Otherwise, it's going to be impossible for me to make this into a Z fold. So this piece is already embossed with the Climbing Roses sentiment. It's embossed in white. Embossing is done by first putting the embossing buddy bag down, stamping the words in Versamark clear sticky ink, sprinkling on some white embossing powder, and then heat setting it. That's all there is to embossing. And I'm going to place this directly over the sticky part of the foam strips. And our shaker area is complete. That's it. That's all there is to a shaker. So what do you guys think? Not so hard after all, is it? It works out really easy. And the shaker can be something that you add to a card just to keep it really interesting, or like is in this, it's just a part of an overall design that just really works together. And now that we have the shaker area settled in, then we can get back to scoring and creating this into a double Z fold. Oh, I do hope you try it, Anne Marie. I would love to see what you come up with. So to create the first Z, this is going to be the long side and this is going to be the short side, as you can see here in this example. So our card base is going to have a short-sided Z on the left. This is not going to fit very easily underneath this part of my trimmer, so I'm going to turn it in this manner. And in fact, I'm going to turn it back over and go this way because I need to get a really flat surface to the 1.5 inch score mark. Because this is 3 inches in width, I want to score it halfway. So that means that I'm going to put my paper down at the 1.5 inch, just like this, and I'm going to score it. I'm going to push twice and then twice again because I'm working through 2 layers of paper. So this can now be folded together, and then this is going to fold back away from the shaker area. And that is the basis of the Z fold card base. That is it. So much less complicated than it appears. And this is how we're able to integrate the shaker area, is just because we kept it on the other side that's not going to be folded. Pretty cool, huh? So now we're going to add the pieces that will form the other half of the Z. And so that would be these pieces here. This is the 6" by 3/4 inch, and this is the 6 by 1/2 inch. So I'm going to adhere these two pieces together and use some snail adhesive, because I think snail is strong enough to adhere to this beautiful foil paper. You could also use liquid glue if you need just a little bit extra few seconds in order to move it around and get it straight. Sometimes I need those extra seconds myself. So once these have made really good contact, then we're going to, just like we did before, we're going to score at 3 inches because that's the halfway point of our card base. And then on this one, our short-sided Z goes on the right-hand side. So we're going to move this to the 1.5 inches, which is halfway on that opposite Z side. And do another. So just like our card base has a score in the middle, and then one of the sections has a score in the middle again. So that allows us to have this lay down in this manner. If you chose to make this into a different size, it would work out really well. Just be sure to score in the middle of what your total width is, and then score one of the panels again in the middle. Because this is a 6" wide, we scored at 3 and we scored again at 1.5. So we're able to now fold, but we need to fold away because this is working in a different way than the card base was. And then we're going to fold this piece toward. And I've got all of these steps that are written out in the free PDF that's at my blog at jennyhalldesign.com. So you can see this forms a Z, and this forms a Z, and when we put them together, that makes the double Z, and because they're opposing each other, it allows there room for both pieces to lay down flat together. And that is, in essence, how the double Z fold card comes about. Pretty cool, isn't it? So our scoring is done, and we can put the score tools away for now. Oh, thank you guys. I'm so glad you like this. The double Z fold card can be adapted in so many ways, and this is just one of the ways that is really fun and pretty with some celebration and occasions catalog goodies. So now that we have some of our components put together, it's going to be very quick that the whole rest of the card goes together. It just had a little bit of a diversion with the shaker. So this is a double Z fold shaker card. If you were not going to add the shaker component, that's okay. Just skip that step and leave this back piece intact, and don't do the rectangle die cut. You would just leave it intact. And this is what it would look like. So now we're going to do a little bit of stamping here. And I've got the sentiment ready, excuse me, from Climbing Roses. So we're going to say, I thought of you today, and then the back is saying, sending love. I'm going to stamp that in Memento Tuxedo Black. This is one of the new cling stamps, and it allows me to be able to see the sticker very clearly, so I know how to line this up. But I'm using my grid paper to help me. I'm trying to keep the sentiment away from all those little tiny dots. And there we go. It's nice when something stamps out the way you want it to, isn't it? It's a great feeling. Because it certainly doesn't always happen that way. That is for sure. So what I'm going to do while this dries for just a little bit, I'm going to go through the steps of how to put together these two pieces. I like to use liquid glue, and I'll show you exactly why I like to use liquid glue. There's lots of different adhesives that you can use, but I have found that in this part of the construction, liquid glue helps me the very most, because sometimes my scoring is off just by a very, very small amount. But in this type of fold, it matters. And most of the time in a standard card, it doesn't matter. But for this, it does matter. Liquid glue really helps me be able to use those few seconds that I need. So our contact points are going to be where the Z areas meet. That means that I'm not going to need liquid glue on the whole piece, just where the contact points are in the paper. So that's going to be here. I'm going to add a nice amount of glue, but hopefully not too much, and get it right up here to the edge. And I'll first apply this piece. Now I'm going to use the time that liquid glue gives me in order to get it put into the right spot. Slide it right up against the side and the bottom until it's flush. And then give it a few seconds by holding it together to ensure that it makes a good contact. So now that I know one of my sides is in the exact right place, then what I like to do is to start folding it up and watch exactly where this double Z is going to fold and lay down. Now what I find that happens to me, and it happens to a lot of card makers as well, is that because I scored this just a little bit off, there's a piece that's going to lay off here. You might be able to see it better from the back. So it did not make a complete fold. It didn't get in exactly the right place, but that's okay. I don't have to change anything if I adhere this the right way. So what I could do is I could rescore and refold, but I found that that doesn't work the best for me. But what does work the best for me is to be able to adhere like it is. And I'm staying away from that very outside edge. I'm going to carefully fold this together to where I know it lays down nice and secure. And I'm going to let that extra piece hang over. But I'm also going to do some adjustments here to make sure that this line continues all the way across. And once I have really good contact here, I'm going to turn it over. And I'm going to trim off the part that needs to come away. Just like that. So it's a little tiny piece. This was the little tiny culprit that would have stopped my card from folding down flat. But now we don't have to worry about it because it's gone. It's taken away. And I still have the integrity of the Z fold, you can see, of the double Z fold. But laying down flat is essential in this fold. It absolutely must be able to lay down flat, or else the fold is not going to mail correctly. You could get it to stand up, but if you wanted to put it in the mail, it would not work out. So how are we going so far? Any questions? If you have any questions, be sure to ask away because this is the right time. Now we've got our double Z together, we've got our shaker card done, then we can start adhering just the nice little pieces. And I've got this beautiful sentiment from Climbing Roses. I'm going to add it with a few Stampin' Dimensionals. These dimensionals are not working out the best, but I'm going to put the dimensionals only on one side because the other side is going to be free floating. going to kind of float over while the card is opened. And then when the card closes, this is going to close down on top of the other sentiment. So when I close it here, I can use the points that are on my die cut to know where the edge of the paper goes. Just like so. And because there's no adhesive back here, that's nothing to stick down. There we go. Now we've got our beautiful roses and we can start adhering them. So what I would like to do is just to slide a rose up underneath here. If I need to lift up that dimensional or cut away some of the rose, this is when I would do it. It was more important for me to be able to get this sentiment exactly in the right place to where it covers up the back and it's centered at this way and this way. So it's completely in the center of the card. And I know that I can adjust this. So I can do that by either removing the die or removing the Stampin' Dimensional back there or just cutting away some of this rose. I know you might be horrified that I'm chopping up this little pretty rose, but that's okay because this is what happens. Is now we can just slide it in. And we can adhere this with liquid glue or with some mini glue dots. So you can understand this is why we took the extra care earlier to make sure that we got this onto 2 pieces of paper that we're not going to allow the pieces to fall away. Because there were some questions about that before. And I'm just going to press to make contact. I did not put glue back here behind these little pieces because it's going to also lay down. It's going to be free floating over on the back side of the paper. If you find that you did get some glue back there, then something easy that you can do is to wipe off as much as you can and then get the embossing buddy and just kind of pat it on the back of where the glue is and it'll take the stickiness away from that glue. Super easy. So we're shaping up over here, aren't we? Such an easy card when we follow step by step. I want this rose to also be placed, but I don't have the space for all of these leaves to go down onto the project. So what I can do is take away some of the pieces that would stick off. And I'll do that ahead of time by trimming down and taking off the leaves. I'm going to take all of the leaves off. So that I can have this flower and turn it in any direction that I need to in order to get it to fit. So I can nestle it up in between where this Z-fold is, and that way it has enough room to stick down to the card project. And now I can place my leaves anywhere I need. I can move them over here so that they stay inside where the card area or just very slightly over, because it will still fit in an envelope if the leaves are sticking out just a tiny bit. And then I want to have some balance by having another one over here. So I'll cut away one of these little pieces. And this is, see, it's important that we had these pieces stay together. These little die cuts would maybe fall apart otherwise. So we're going to just slide it in that way. And then I'll adhere these with a little bit of liquid glue. Just enough. Just enough to keep it in place. And because we layered our die cuts and adhered them to a piece of printer paper, nothing's going to fall away. We can be secure that when this gets in the mail, that it's not going to have fallen apart. Now this does not get adhered with any Stampin' Dimensionals because we need this to lay down flat in this inside the Z-fold here. So I'm going to again turn it in a direction that is going to allow me to get it to nestle in between everything. Add some liquid glue and kind of spread it out here. This is going to help the integrity of all those little tiny pieces as well. Let's see here. Here we go. This will help it to stay. If I let it hang over just a little bit there, kind of move it down and make sure that I cover the edge of these leaves. And then press to make some contact. And there we have it. This is basically the all you have to do to get this double Z fold. There is an extra step that can be taken, but is not necessary in any way, and that's to make it into a box area. This area down here in the center of the two Z folds is referred to as the box area because it's a little, just a little square. And when you close it flat, there is the ability to have something in between as a bridge that will fold down as well. It's not so easy to get that part on the first try whenever you are creating a double Z fold card. But it can be done. It's not that difficult once you try it a few times. This is what it looks like. What you do is use a little strip of paper, fold it in each direction, and then adhere something to it. And we'll go and make that process. But I definitely would like for you to not feel pressurized in your crafting, not put pressure on yourself, because I tend to do that on myself, and it makes me conscious of not wanting people to feel hard on themselves. This step with the little piece on the box is not necessary, and it can be very frustrating to get it to be perfect. I will show you what my little tips are, but this is not necessary. I just want to show you what the two pieces look like together. This has got the box piece. This does not have the box piece. And I feel like it really doesn't take anything away from the project if you leave the box piece off. So if you're new to this type of card fold, please don't feel pressured to make this part, to add the little box area, because it isn't something that has to be done. Work up to it, use your time and play with your scraps and see perhaps if you're able to get that to work just in a fold before you add it to some kind of a project and commit yourself. I am very, very hard on myself whenever I'm trying to do something and it doesn't work out so easy. So that's where this is coming from. It's coming from my heart that I don't want you to experience anything that I have given myself a hard time about. So to create this box area, this is how we do it. I have a strip here of black paper. It doesn't matter what the height of it is. It's just that you want to make sure that it's wide enough that we're going to be able to create a few folds. You're right, Fran. It does help. This little tiny foil die cut is absolutely stunning. And it does add some more to what this iridescentness is. It really does. But I can't stress you enough that I've had tears over creating the box areas when I first started making this type of fold, because it can be frustrating, and it bothers me that people might have those frustrations as well. So that's why I'm trying very, very hard to make sure that nobody else has to go through the problems that I've done. So the first thing we're going to do is to fold the paper over around about 1/2 inch. It doesn't have to be exact. And then I'm going to put a mini glue dot. And it's important that we use mini glue dots with this portion and not liquid glue. So we've got one mini glue dot, and this is going to be the place that goes the bridge across the middle, and this attaches to the side. So what I'm going to do is to sneak it up in there. I'm going to trim this paper just enough to where I can really get it up in there. You can understand how this might give people a little bit of a frustration. So now it is right there to where the folded part is close to the middle. A mini glue dot is not going to give me any gushing glue anywhere, and it will still allow me to move it around just a little bit. So if you can see it, there it is, and it's attached on the one side. Okay, you could also fold this and try to get the fold of the bridge area outside of it, but I haven't had any luck doing that. This is the way that I find works for me the best. So what I'm now going to do is take and fold the paper in the opposite direction, like this, and I'm going to cut off to where I just have about that 1/2 inch. Use another glue dot of where it will stick to the opposite side in the box area. This is what makes the box card. And then I'm going to stick that down. Now here's the important part. I can see that I haven't got it straight and it's not the right width. But where you test it is to fold it down. And the card stock here will start kind of crumpling a little bit and mold itself into the right place. So that now we have, well, now that mini glue dot is sticking to the wrong place. Here we go. I got that mini glue dot in just the wrong spot. Now I can take it away. There we go. And put it back again in the right spot. So I've got another Z that's folded down here inside. I want it to go down flat, and I want it to stick onto, I want the glue dot to stick down onto that little flap. This might be easier if you read it and follow a tutorial or seeing it done in person. But this is why I stress that this is not necessary. If it gives you trouble, leave it off your project. It gives me trouble sometimes. There we go. But now it's there. And since I know exactly where it needs to lay, because we cut it in this manner, then I'll be able to kind of move it around exactly like a little bit to this direction or a little bit to that direction and get it to lay down right. So how are we doing with following along? I'd like to hear if this is something that you like, that little extra section there, or if it's a little too much trouble. But here it is. And it takes me a few moving around and adjusting things until I'm happy with it laying down absolutely flat. But now it does. It lays down absolutely flat. And what I'm able to do is take this little tiny die piece and roll it up into, it looks like a little cannoli. Place it here on that little bridge strip. And now I can adhere the die cut to it. And the die cut is free floating. That's the beauty of adding that little extra bridge part, that little extra box area, is that it gives something just a little bit more dimension. And that's it. It's a lot of taking extra time, checking measurements, making sure that things lay down the way that you like them to lay down. And if it doesn't, then having the ability to make adjustments as you go along. And it's a beautiful result. Oh, good. I'm glad you guys are really liking this. So this is the card that I made off camera, and this is the card that we made today. And I think they're both equally beautiful. You can see that the shaker bits kind of lay down in the bottom, and then they move around when you shake them. And some of them actually stay in place because of the static electricity that builds up between the plastic pieces. But very cool. I've got detailed pictures on my blog at jennyhalldesign.com. They're there today, and they will stay there in this post. All of the instructions for coloring and for die cutting and for creating the shaker area, as well as the double Z fold area, are all there together. Very easy to follow along. I'm going to turn the camera around again so that I can see you guys. Here we go. I hope this project was not too complicated and that it's something that you will enjoy being able to try on your own. With the little tips that I've given along the way in the construction, I hope that it helps you as it's helped me, because I've learned as I go along that if I take a few extra little stopping points and make sure that something fits just the right way, then it does make a difference. Then it will allow the fold to lay down successfully and go down completely flat and be mailed. I would suggest putting a piece of cardstock in front of this area before it goes in the mail. And that way you can make sure that you've got just an extra little layer there to make sure that everything stays in place nice the way it's supposed to. It's really great whenever a design comes together, and I think this design will adapt itself so easily to many other different products. This is created with the Botanical Butterfly Designer Series paper that is Celebration only. It's going to not be available to purchase, and you can only get it for free. But you can use and substitute other Designer Series papers if you have something that works that's your favorite as well. So imagine creating this project and duplicating it with butterflies. Wouldn't that be nice? Or with different flowers, or maybe characters. There's lots of different things that we have that are in our craft supplies that we can adapt this project and make it look something that's totally different. Oh, I'm glad you guys like this. I'm reading the comments and I'm seeing that it's something that you really like. Now, Betty, you're a professional at making fancy folds, so I think this is something you can do with your hands tied behind your back. And if you guys need to watch again and learn how to do the shaker card, this is a great way to learn how to do basic shaker cards. If you need any more help on the Z fold, then watch it back as many times as you need in order to get that Z fold down just right, because it took me many times before I was able to get it and really feel comfortable. And I'll tell you, I can make this Z fold in my sleep nowadays. In fact, sometimes I actually dream about making cards. Do you guys ever dream about making cards? I do. I dream about designs, and yes, I can see myself making different folds, card folds and watercolors and stuff. But this project combines some of my favorites, and that's the double Z fold with watercoloring and a shaker card bonus. So it's pretty cool. I was really excited whenever I finished this card that it came together so nicely. Thank you so much for spending the time with me today. I would like to encourage you that if you have not yet checked out Celebration, then do so. Celebration is the best time, the Stampin' Up! Year, to get your craft supplies and earn free products while you're stocking up on things like adhesives and cardstock, stamp pads, and if you need a new aqua painter or a new Versamark sticky ink pad, then this is a time of year that you can get those things, and you can get the free items that you normally wouldn't be able to get. So that's one of the reasons why I stock up. I just got a big shipment of cardstock in this past week, and I really like being able to get all my snail adhesive and all my cardstock at this time of the year so that I can earn my free celebration items. And that's what I got here, was a lot of those. So I thank you guys once again. If you would like to get this card, if you would like to be entered in the giveaway, indicate that you shared the video. I would love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel here. That's the red bar that says subscribe. Just hit it and then touch that little bell that's right next to it, and that'll let you know every time I have a new card making project that I can share with you. Not all of my cards are videos. I do a lot of them that I don't have time to do a video. So if you visit jennyhalldesign.com, you'll find all my new products that are turned into projects. And there's usually a free PDF tutorial with those as well. So that is a little added bonus. Thanks all again, and I'll see you next time. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching the video. Have a good day.